Today I'm going to do an install video, and first of all let me apologize for doing it where I am. I meant to move the boat out into the yard where we can get a lot of beautiful sunlight, and it decided to pour down rain today. So I went ahead and set up a small light, so hopefully that's enough, and we'll go ahead and get started. Now this is the old seat right here, and it was a pedestal seat on a swivel, and it was mounted to this. The pedestal didn't work out. It was actually a little too tall. And so what I want to do is I want to mount it to something, but the biggest problem that I have is because of the box, it's really hard to get in there. So when I was talking to somebody about this, they said, well, haven't you seen the slide and lock ones? I saw them and they look great. So I looked at these things, and basically what we have here is a mounting base that you mount onto your surface, whether it be a box or pedestal, and then there's a release right here, and then you have your standard swivel. And I matched this up against the previous swivel, which is this right here, and they're exactly the same size. So if your seats already have these swivel bases on them, you don't even have to use this one, so you don't have to mess with the seat at all. You just disconnect it from your pedestal, and then you can slide and lock it in here after you mount this. Now, let's go ahead and talk about this. The directions are really basic. But what they say is to remove these two metal brackets, and then you'll be able to put your bolts in here. I did over drill these holes just a little bit because they were exact fits for what I had, and that did not exactly fit this. So by doing that, I gave myself a little bit more space, and I went with new bolts. So those are 1/4-inch stainless steel, and the reason is because I spend a lot of time in brackish or salt water. So I want to make sure that that doesn't fail. Now, I'm only going to do the passenger seat today because the driver's seat has a locking swivel, and it's going to be a little bit more work, and it's going to be really hard to film. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and remove these two metal brackets here. These two brackets are just like flat L brackets there. Then got this, and it's loaded with these springs right here. Think that those will have to be pushed back in when we put the bracket back on to make sure that they seat well. And then we've got that. I have two different size bolts because I wasn't sure which ones I wanted to use. So we'll go ahead and check them both and see what we got. I've got both of them are 1/4. One of them is 1.5 and the other one is 2. And I know I can go long here and not be in trouble, but I just don't want anything extra pushing into the tackle box here. Still a tight fit even though I over drilled these holes. Let's do this one first. So I'm looking at the 1.5, and I'm looking if I put that nut on there, I just don't think that's going to be good enough. So we're going to go ahead and pull that 1.5 out and go with all the 2-inchers. So I put in the 2-inch bolts here, and I'm just going to get them to seat in here. And again, they're kind of a tight fit because this bracket was not measured for when I drilled the original holes. So I kind of have to squeeze them in there. All right, they're all there. Now I'm just going to go ahead and thread them through slowly. Now, something I want you to keep in mind is that you want to make sure that these get down so that way that metal plate can go across there. So if you're not comfortable and you think that head's going to sit up a little too high, then you might want to go ahead and use the next size down in bolt. I'm not going to. I want to get as strong a connection as possible. So I'm going to go ahead and put these washers on there. I'm going to set each nut on. So I'm going to go ahead and tighten these down. We'll just take a little camera break and I'll be right back. So we're back, and I've got all 4 of these tightened down, and you can see here that they're really snug. I wanted to make sure that I pulled on those heads as much as possible. I don't want them to stand proud at all. You can feel them, they're right there. So if they were any higher, I would have to switch to a different bolt. So I'm going to go ahead and lock this in the down position because I don't want the box moving at all. And then what we're going to do is we're going to put this back together. But one thing I want to do is I want to make sure that these springs get all the way in there when I go to lock this down. Okay, so I'm going to feed these in with this first screw first, so that way it holds this thing down. And that plate is held back down again. Go ahead and do this here. Now the idea is to leave them all just a little loose and then snug them back down after you're done. So another camera break, I'll be right back. Okay, now I've got those 2 brackets back on there and I want to test that to make sure it's working right. And again, those springs, I kind of had to push them in there a little bit. Now do remember that even though this has an easy release, it's still going to be challenging to get it on and off because of how much room you have here. So it'll be hard to get your hand in there and really work on that. But you might use a flat bar or even a large screwdriver. Now here we have my brand new chair. And first off, I don't want to forget to say thank you. This was a free sample and I really appreciate it. So I'm replacing these ones here, and these ones, they were actually smaller than what the listing said when I purchased them, but that's been years ago. So I got my mileage out of them. It wasn't like I feel like, you know, I didn't get my money's worth. I bought them on sale and the listing, like I said they were a little larger than they were. I measured these ones and they match the listing exactly. So if you want some reassurance in that, I definitely double check that. It comes with a standard hardware kit for these chairs. And then I'm going to use the new swivels that came with that kit. Again, if you have chairs already that you'll be using, then you don't need to worry about that at all. Got this here. And I like the fact that it's already got bolts and everything to go right into the inset nuts, which is really nice because I can just finger tighten this one right here. I don't need to play around. I love that. This one in here. Definitely want to get it threaded by hand anyway. And then if you want to hit it with a screwdriver or with a power tool, you can do that. I'm always really careful when I get to the very end with my power tool, so that way I don't strip any of this stuff out. But these bolts and nuts feel really strong, so I don't think that that's going to be a problem here. So I'm going to go ahead and snug these down. I'll be right back. So everything feels good here, but I'm going to check these right here while I'm here. Once I put it together, it'll be really hard to get to these. So now I've got this lined up and I should be able to just drop this in here. Make sure it's in the track. Okay, there we go. So my one note for you is that when you're doing it like that, what you have to do is you have to make sure that that plate slides in evenly. Otherwise, it will twist just a little bit. So it is in there. And it is just over that lock, and then just pull up on it just a little bit and it is locked in place. Let's go ahead and have a seat. As far as the chairs go, they fit me really well, and I'm actually going to switch to this camera over here because cut off my head. So the chair itself is a nice fit. It's just an average size chair, so it's not a high back. If you're looking for a high back, that's not it. But this is a nice feel, and it's wider than the previous chairs, which is what I was going for, because the other ones, they just didn't feel comfortable because they weren't wide enough. And I think that when you're kicking back and going down the river, I think you're going to be comfortable in this chair. If you're looking for a really high-end chair, well, this is just a normal chair, so I don't want you to be disappointed or upset. But it feels good so far. So I'm going to use this chair for the fall salmon season, and then I'll make a new video with an update and let you know how it's going. The slide and lock base is a super cool idea, and you never know, you might want to go with the next size down bolts to make sure that the head of your bolt doesn't stand proud at all, because that might be touching the plate, and that might have been why I had a little bit of trouble getting that thing to lock in place. So anyway, check both of these products out. I think if you grabbed either one, you'll be really happy with it. And you saw this whole project right here. So thanks for watching. Have a great day.